Hey, we're here with Maria Leon-Vazquez, who's running for re-election to the school board. So welcome, Maria. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And you want to just let us know, what led you to decide to run again?
Well, I have to say, I always say that I'm always the youngest one on the school board. I've been on the school board now almost 24 years in December. But from the very beginning, my purpose was to make sure that we begin to close those achievement gaps. And of course, I've been on 24 years and they're still open, very much open. But the purpose for me running again is that we have a new leader, superintendent that I think has a great vision. I bring 24 years of institutional, knowledge to this position. And I bring a lot of resources, and the fact that I'm employed by Santa Monica College and can use those resources too with a grant that I oversee, that I think I can be a really strong candidate and a strong member of the board, continue to be. I continue to update my learning by going to a lot of professional development pieces for Santa Monica College and also for SMMUSD. So my knowledge is there. It's not like I've all of a sudden I've been 24 years and I'm stale, because I'm not. I'm the only one, I think, well, besides now two of us, two Latinas on the board, but I come from a lower socioeconomic immigrant family, been in Santa Monica since 1959. And I was trying to calculate because I found my naturalization certificate because I was born in Mexico and I was naturalized in 1977. So I'm sure somewhere along the line, probably early 1978, I registered as a Democrat. So I've been here supporting the Democratic Party all this time.
Great. So we'll go around and ask you some questions. And I wanted to start with something that piqued my curiosity from your questionnaire, which is one of your top issues is establishing wellness service centers at the schools. I'm based on the way you described it, I'll let you describe it, but you were talking about how the pandemic really increased the need for that. So I'm curious if you could describe what exists in that world already in the district, and then how you would enhance that with the wellness service centers.
Well, one of the key things I didn't realize until we actually um, came back and we were opening the schools, the fact that a lot of the students were not coming back. And it was a slow process in getting students to come back. And the reasoning being that a lot of our students had high anxiety and were scared to come back. And so we kind of started looking into it and figuring out that a lot of children, all of a sudden, from what I understand, they had these fears, and we needed to support them. So with the monies that we had, from COVID, we began to do some trainings within the school district with our teachers, with our nursing staff helped us with that piece. And so we were able to institute at least some type of program at the elementary schools, in the middle schools, and most of them even within the elementary and middle don't really have rooms, but they were able to convert, I think, their nursing rooms into areas where if students needed to come and just regroup, they would allow them to come into those rooms. I know at the high school, we have 3 rooms there that students are able to come in, and if they need a break, they need to just go in and regroup and figure their life out for that moment. They're able to come in. I know that on Wednesday mornings, they have a drop-in counseling, or just a quiet room. I forget what it's called, Wednesday mornings, like before, because it's late start at Samo High. So they're able to get there early and just kind of have hot chocolate with them and just enjoy the day. But I think what's the most interesting is that I've had conversations with people from Ventura County, and they have set up wellness centers in all of their schools. They have. So it's doable. It really is doable. And part of it is being able to hire, what is it? MSWs. So masters in social workers. We need social workers. We don't really need counselors unless counselors have a background in social work, which is a little bit different. Counseling and social and the type of counseling that we need for social emotional children is a little bit different. And I don't know if all of our counselors, many of them being trained last century, have that capacity. But I think if we do some training with them, we can get them to be more helpful in that sense of giving supporting our students where they need to be met. I know that if you go into the elementary schools, most elementary schools start off with like a mindfulness kind of approach in the morning. So they kind of welcome everybody and they do a round circle and they just ask the students, and I was there for a kindergarten class where they were asking him, how was your day this morning? What happened this morning? Is everything okay? And some kids go, no, I spilled my milk this morning on me and I had to go change. No, I hit my head, or yes, I had a great day, or yes, I'm gonna go see my grandmother this weekend. And it's interesting that they would make comments and the children will respond by saying, oh, can you elaborate more on that? Just using that word elaborate more and having the kids really listen to each other and just ask questions I was dumbfounded. I was like going like, wow, this is happening in kindergarten. So if we can start that process, can you imagine all of us would do that in the morning before we get our day started? I think we would start off with a good day. So I really like that approach. So I think I'm looking into that. I'm going to be meeting with a superintendent of education at the county level in Ventura. He just happens to be Tony's nephew, Dr. Cesar Morales. So I hope to sit down and have a good conversation with him this summer and seeing how he handled it and how he has wellness centers all over in all of his schools.
Thanks. Who's up next? Sam.
Hey Maria,
Hi, Sam.
I just wondering about your response to the Santa Monica Police Department issues. So could you clarify the current relationship between the police and the district schools and how you want a different approach or how the status quo should change?
Mhm. Well, we've always had a good relationship with the Santa Monica Police Department. They've always provided community service officers for us. So that means in the past, we've always had maybe 3 or 4 of them when there was money. And the police officers were always present mainly when there was events going on, they would be present. Or whenever they needed speakers from the community, they will always send somebody and they were there as speakers. So for me it hasn't changed. I don't know let me clarify my answer. I want to continue that approach. I want to make sure that we do have those resources for the officers, because in that sense, they're able to, in their own way, they speak to students. So the students are not afraid of police. Students should not be afraid of police. And to me, it's been in my approach in the way I've seen it, because I grew up in that generation when everybody was anti-police back in the 70s. But having said that, things have changed. And I think we have to make those partners, and the police department has always been there. I know that in the very beginning, we had some issues and we clarified some issues with them, but I think they should always be our partners there, and be there at all the events with us. In the community events, they're present, because they're in a sense, our safety, one of our safety nets in the city, a great safety net in the city and for the students. So I think that I want to continue, and now we're down to, I think, 1 or 2 community service officers there. And the good thing about it, that Officer Angel happens to have grown up in the West Side. He's not from Santa Monica, but I actually went to school with his father. So, and so he's a good community asset. He understands our community very well. So that's what I really love, that they usually designate officers that grew up in the area. So.
Thanks. Let's go to Lynn.
Hi, Maria.
Hi.
As you know, teaching students how to be critical thinkers is essential. And I was wondering, in what ways you believe critical thinking can be taught?
Well, in my response is, I think there's a lot of training that's been going on in the district, I think, and one of the key things that really I've honed into, and because maybe of all of the professional development that I've had at Santa Monica College, is project-based learning. I think this is where, we always talk to students about getting them ready to higher education and to have their passions lead them to where they want to do. But when you tell even a high schooler, what is your passion, they just kind of look at you. They haven't lived that long to understand a lot of things, unless they're really active in the community and involved with projects in the community. But one of the key things with project-based is they respond to world issues. And their way of response, meaning that if they see an issue, a problem in the community, in the world, in the school, wherever their parameters are, they're able, their response is to, let me find a solution to this. And I think this develops because they at least are finding areas that they are of interest to them. They can do the research and they can do the readings, and it's everything's, set around whatever their main grasp is. And I think with that, they're able to understand the issues, and they're able to think out the process instead of in a traditional classroom where we just teach to them. In a lot of cases, just memorize. And we can't teach to them anymore. We can't. It can't be just a lecture and, here, memorize and take an exam. It doesn't happen that way anymore. 21st century means there is some lecture, but lecture just to set them with what the project is going to be for that week. And they go off and they do it. Whether they do it, and hopefully they're not doing it by themselves, but in a group effort so that they can get some good response and some results. And they're actually learning something that they like. And that can be introduced like in social studies, English, even sciences, the math. It really, the project-based fits into almost all of the academic courses at the high schools or the schools.
Thank you.
All right, Isabel.
Yeah, hi, Maria.
Hi.
I was interested to hear, your top priority is closing the achievement gap. So I'd be interested to hear a little more about that, why you think it's persistent despite, all the efforts over the years to close that, and what do you think are the most promising avenues to bring, all the students up to a similar level of achievement?
Yeah, well, as you can see, one of my big responses is that I sat down about a month ago as we were getting the questionnaires for the SMER and Santa Monica Democratic Club, and I reviewed the Dr. Pedro Noguera report. And if you look at even the executive summary on there, one of the key issues that he did find was the fact that we had all these great initiatives, never really got a great result because we never changed the processes. We never set processes for how education was to make a shift or a change to make sure that teachers were on board and they understood how their students were learning or not learning. So in these when we hired Dr. Dradi, our former superintendent, like 6 years ago, he understood that and started the process of making that change. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit and everything got thwarted because we were trying to stay alive and keep the school district moving forward with the COVID. But when we hired Dr. Shelton, he had not been a superintendent, but the good thing about what I found really exceptional was the fact that he was one of the student, I guess, administrative leaders, part of the leadership for under Dr. Dradi, and he knew what he was trying to set in place. So he went back, and I know he already presented, his 6 priorities for the district, and those specific changes are system changes, where we're asking the teachers and all K-12 or pre-K through 12 or TK through 12 that they need to look and focus in terms of how they proceed. Let's say with a lecture, how the students responded to that lecture, and if there was any homework or tests resulting to that, and seeing how everybody did in that learning arena. And if they didn't, they have to go back and redo it. So there was processes that are being set in place that now Dr. Shelton is organizing and providing a lot of professional development to his leaders, which are the principals. So because they again will be the ones that will be teaching and getting their teams and their schools, which is I consider their own schools, in place so that they're able to understand what is it that they may have been teaching a certain way, but if they would look back at that process and did they follow that process, if they would, then you would see a result, you would see some change. And if they haven't, then you go back to see what happened here, what did you leave out that if you would have followed that process, there would have been some change. So that is really what I'm looking at, is that the processes that need to be set in place, the strategies have to change so that we can see some results. And I think we can do that with Dr. Shelton.
go to Natalia.
I really enjoyed reading your questionnaire and getting to know a little bit more about you. I didn't know that your family had actually been one of those that had been displaced by the building of the 10 freeway. That was
Right.
really fascinating to me, and I think it gives you a really interesting perspective on the school board. But my question was to kind of build on your response to the question regarding the role of the Santa Monica Democratic Club in the city. And you noted that that the club needs to have more educational democratic forums and be more aggressive in recruiting more diverse community leaders. So I was just wondering if you could build on that, how you would see us being able to do that.
Well, part of it is trying to set up, I've never been lack at it. I think for a while there, I was one of the founders of the Latino Youth Conference back in 1979 that lasted for 25 years. And in that process, there was a lot of leadership development that came from that. And you have people like Liz Cruz and Ani, I call her Ani, but Ana Jara, Ana M. Jara, or Ana G. Jara, the daughter, came through a lot, to that conference. So there was some development training, but since then I have, I've kind of drifted from that because I had my own personal things going on at the college. But my role would be that we have to develop a leadership within, let's say, the city council taking on leadership and doing mentorships with our students so that they understand the process. But main thing is to be able to have forums, more forums that are more broader forums that perhaps like something similar to what SMC does with the Public Policy Institute, to be able to bring broader forums to the city at large, or even specifically to the high schools, that we can again bring on and really teach a lot of our students, like the Democratics 101 class. It's almost like I said, with like Chicano studies, I have to teach some of them Chicano studies 101 because they forget. And they can only take it from when, let's say from like the late 1990s forward. And, the Chicano movement was way back in the 60s or even the 50s started. So there has to be a lot of education, I think, and I would definitely work with some of you to get it going and started. I think we really need to. I mean, we need to grow and get a lot of our youth. I see it. There's some young people here with Sam, and I'm seeing Sam and Luis and you, Natalia, and everybody else that is here that that are younger than us, and we need to kind of be able to start passing that baton when we get to a certain point that we need the younger coming in. So
Thank you.
All right, Keith.
Hey there, Maria. How are you?
good. How are you?
Good, doing okay. Great to see you. Hey, so I appreciate all of your comments and your thoughts in the questionnaire. Certainly, really forward thinking on the comments related to climate literacy and blue economy. Those are some of the things that we had shared at LA County School Trustees Association some forum. So great to see that. One of the things that Natalia just was asking, I wanted to kind of follow up on the comments that she had made relative to more diverse staff. And in particular, this came from the student concern section of the questionnaire, where I guess the students were saying that they hope to see more diverse teachers and more diverse administrators. Can you kind of describe how perhaps the district is moving forward, more intently on trying to get more diverse teachers and more diverse administrators?
Well, that's been my big issue since I got elected in 2000. And part of it was the fact that we really, in terms of teacher turnaround, we don't really have that. So that we, in a sense, do not officially go recruiting to a lot of the areas where I know we would have more of a diverse population for teachers. So in the last couple of years, when Dr. Mora was there, she actually did push us to start recruiting in, let's say, CABE, which is a coalition of bilingual educators, because they have a big conference every year, either Northern California or Southern California, and to set up a booth there and start recruiting teachers. The same thing, like I tell them, whenever you go to certain graduations, like USC, LMU, Cal State Northridge, all of them who have education, UCLA, that have education, when they have their education graduations, that we go and recruit there. Because if you go to those arenas, there's a lot of a diversity of teachers that are, or students that are receiving their teaching credentials, that I think we can do a better job in recruiting. And the same things with any of activities when they're, you know, whether it's in the African-American communities where you have actual job fairs, that we should be present, because that's the only way. People are not going to come to us. We have to go out and do that recruitment. So I'm hoping that we begin to do that in this coming year. I've been really pushing it. And because it was even sad to see that when we were out there recruiting for superintendent, I think at one point we had like 35 applications, and a lot of those, only 5 of them were diverse. So what does that tell us? So even though we have people out there recruiting, we really need to do a better job of doing that. And now that I have Alicia with me, she's now a delegate with CSBA. So I think she's been out there already recruiting when she goes to these meetings over there. So I think we're gonna do a better job in that. And that's one of the things, because the students are, again, we have like a 33% of our student body, let's say at the high school, is Latino. Then from there you have Asian, African Americans. Our population African Americans is really diminished a lot. We only have 8% now, and I don't know whether a lot of them have left. And I realized when I went to the rites of passage on Thursday, I think it was Thursday, the event, and I found out that many of the students, our middle school, were not coming back. Our African American males, they were going to you know, Brentwood, I think Brentwood School. They were going to other schools, New Roads. So a lot of them were not coming back, and I understand the issue, but I think we have to do a better job, which only tells me that we're not doing a great job in making sure that we keep our students of color, you know, from staying in our district to move on forward.
All right, Mike.
Hey, Maria.
Hi.
So, less than 2 years ago, we passed the new measure GS, giving money to the schools and to
Right.
affordable housing, talk about wellness for people and for children. But after losing politically, after losing in the court challenge now, Madison Capital and Cypress Equity are funding an effort to try and cut back on that to exempt all existing residential buildings in the city, including the Shores. Douglas Emmett should be able to sell his building. Anyway, what is your position on that? And then beyond your position on it, what are you going to do if this is on the ballot to see that your position is the one that is adopted by the voters of Santa Monica?
Well, I was part of GS, so I was the school board president at the time, so I know I signed off on that. I'm against the approach that they're doing in terms of making the amendments on GS, because I was gonna say BS, but it is BS on this GS stuff that's going on. That's what it is. So no, I'm against it. I don't think that that's the solution. And I mean, we are Santa Monica, and it's always been that people will, when we ever put anything through that's positive, you're always going to have the counters going against us and trying to go around these resolutions that the community has passed. Because we, the voters, passed GS. So for now, for somebody else to, you know, they're trying to come back and change it around and I guess them presented it in a different way, it doesn't work. I mean, I'm against it, and I will, at this point, you know, we'll create and go in my community. As I meet people, I just make sure that they don't sign the petition, for one, so that it doesn't get in the ballot. And then 2, if it does, then I will make sure I put it in all my literature. And as we go out there campaigning and going out and walking my precincts, I will make sure that literature or that people do talk it up and say, please do not vote for this.
All right. Yeah, we'll give the last word to Sam.
So you were speaking a little bit on special education, in your uh form. So what have you done over the past 24 years to ensure that there is progress, and what more is to be desired?
Well, it's interesting because I was we have district advisory committees in the district. And that was one of the committees that I sat on probably between 2002 to maybe 2010. And during that time, we had a lot of issues, very hard issues that being led by, we actually hired an assistant superintendent for special education, and he created the chaos. So luckily he was let go, and we had actually during, I think it was John Daisy's tenure when he was superintendent. We audited the whole special education area. And so that there was a lot of things, a lot of changes that were made as a result. And I was there, since I was a liaison, I supported the parents on that, because the parents were very adamant that they were not getting the services they needed. And many families would come to the district because they know that our district is pretty good in terms of supporting the needs of special education students, special needs students. And so they've received a lot of services that maybe they probably didn't get in their previous school districts, and they would come to Santa Monica and do that, and then they would sue us. So in the last maybe 8 years or so, we've made a conscious effort to hire really good special education directors now who understand that. And from when we would have probably 30 to 40 cases pending, we're down to maybe 10 that are pending. So I think we're doing a great job. They're cleaning up a lot of again, processes. What process because you have to follow a process when you have in a student's process for their plans, and so a lot of times there was things fell through the cracks or whatever, and so we're trying to just to make sure that we do have the process set in place so that all of the teachers have the support that they need, that they go through professional development, and to make sure that we don't see these issues, these students falling through the cracks, and they get the services that they need. But I think we're being pretty good in the last, like I said, 6 years or so with the directors that we've brought on. And I'm convinced that we're doing a great job. So whatever we do, we support. We actually hired an assistant because the director that came in had so much going on. And because again, it's hard to find special education teachers these days. We've had a hard time filling some of those gaps. And because as we train them, of course, we pay them a certain amount, but as we train them and they do well, they go into private sector making more money. So we haven't been able to keep. So as a result, we actually hired an assistant, a coordinator for her. A coordinator under the director to help her assist her in making sure that the trainings, that the teachers are being trained, and we move forward with that. So we support. I'm at this point, I'm not completely say I'm 100%, but we're getting there. We're getting there to make sure that all our kids are being supported.
Great. Well, thanks so much for being here, Maria.
Thank you.
Great as always to see you, and good luck with the campaign. We'll see
Okay.
you next week for the
Okay, for the debate, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye.